The turpentine reeked, a caustic counterpoint to the metallic tang of blood that always seemed to cling to Arthur these days. He hadn't cut himself, not physically, but the air around him thrummed with a premonition so vivid it felt like a phantom wound. The canvas before him, a swirling vortex of cobalt and crimson, mirrored the chaos in his head. He hadn't meant to paint it. He rarely meant to paint anything. The images just came. It started subtly, a few weeks ago. A sunset rendered in impossible hues, appearing on the news the next day exactly as he'd captured it, down to the anomalous cloud formation shaped like a skeletal hand. He dismissed it as coincidence, a trick of the eye, a shared hallucination. But then came the bridge collapse, rendered in stark, brutal detail a day before the first cracks appeared in the support beams. Now, the canvases stacked against the walls of his cramped studio were less art and more prophecy, each one a terrifying glimpse into a future he desperately wished he could unsee. He stared at the swirling vortex, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. There was a figure in the painting, barely discernible, lost in the maelstrom of color. A child, he thought, reaching out, swallowed by the storm. He shuddered. He had to know what it meant, even if knowing meant confronting a horror. He wasn't sure he could survive. Arthur spent the next 48 hours a prisoner in his own mind, haunted by the image of the child. He scoured news outlets, police reports, missing persons databases, desperate to find a connection, a name, anything to anchor the swirling chaos to reality. He barely slept, fueled by lukewarm coffee and a growing sense of panic. The city outside his window, usually a comforting hum of urban life, now felt like a ticking time bomb. He found her name, buried deep in a local news report. Lily Evans, age 6, vanished from a park 2 days ago. The park? It was the park he saw reflected in the crimson swirl of the painting. The park near the old water treatment plant. The plant, abandoned for years, a labyrinth of decaying concrete and rusted pipes. A place where nightmares went to breed. He knew with a chilling certainty that Lily was there. He knew it the way he knew the paintings were more than just paint on canvas. He had to go. He had to try to stop it, even if it meant facing whatever darkness lurked in the shadows of that crumbling structure. The police dismissed him as a crank, a grief-stricken relative clinging to false hope. But Arthur didn't need their validation. He had the painting. He had the future staring him in the face. And he had a desperate, burning need to rewrite the ending. The water treatment plant reeked of decay and despair. The air was thick with the cloying sweetness of mildew and something else, something metallic and faintly human. Arthur moved through the labyrinthine corridors, his heart pounding against his ribs, the painting a constant, agonizing reminder of what awaited him. He found her in the main pumping room, chained to a rusted pipe, her eyes wide with terror. A figure stood over her, silhouetted against the dim light filtering through a grimy window. A man, tall and gaunt, his face obscured by shadows. "Let her go," Arthur said, his voice trembling, despite his best efforts. The man turned and Arthur recoiled. His face was a mask of madness, his eyes burning with a chilling intensity. He recognized him. He'd seen him before, lurking in the periphery of his paintings, a shadow figure always present just before the darkness descended. "You see it, don't you?" the man rasped, his voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You see what's coming? You can't stop it. No one can." He lunged, a rusty pipe clutched in his hand. Arthur stumbled back, fear momentarily paralyzing him. He wasn't a fighter. He was an artist, a man who saw the future in colors and shapes. But he couldn't let this man hurt Lily. He couldn't let the painting become reality. Arthur reacted instinctively, grabbing a loose piece of concrete from the floor and throwing it with all his might. It struck the man in the head, sending him sprawling. He lay motionless, a dark stain spreading across the concrete floor. Arthur rushed to Lily, fumbling with the rusty chains. He managed to free her just as the sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. He scooped her up in his arms and ran, desperate to get her out of that hellhole before the darkness claimed them both. As he emerged from the plant, blinking in the harsh sunlight, he saw the police cars converging, their flashing lights painting the scene in a surreal, almost artistic glow. He handed Lily over to a waiting officer, then collapsed against a police cruiser, his body trembling with exhaustion and relief. He had saved her. He had changed the future. But the victory felt hollow, tainted by the knowledge that the darkness was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next opportunity. The aftermath was a blur of interviews, investigations, and unwanted attention. The police were baffled by his knowledge of Lily's whereabouts, suspicious of his involvement. They couldn't understand the paintings, the visions, the impossible foresight that had led him to her. They saw him as either a hero or a suspect. Unable to reconcile the artist with the savior, he tried to explain, to tell them about the paintings, about the future he saw in swirling colors and chaotic shapes. But they just looked at him with pity and disbelief. He was alone with his gift, cursed with the ability to see what others couldn't, burdened with the responsibility of preventing the inevitable. He went back to his studio, the scent of turpentine now a constant reminder of the horrors he had witnessed. He looked at the paintings stacked against the walls, each one a terrifying glimpse into a future he couldn't escape. He knew he couldn't stop painting. He knew he couldn't ignore the visions. He was trapped, a prisoner of his own mind, a pawn in a game he didn't understand. He picked up a brush, his hand trembling. He stared at the blank canvas, waiting for the image to emerge, waiting for the future to reveal itself. He knew it was coming. He could feel it, a cold, creeping dread that settled deep in his bones. He just didn't know what, or who, he would have to save next. The blood metallic tang was back, stronger than ever. Weeks turned into months. Arthur continued to paint, each canvas a new source of torment. He saved lives, averted disasters, became a silent guardian, a reluctant prophet. But the toll was immense. The visions were becoming more frequent, more intense, more personal. He started seeing himself in the paintings, not as a hero, but as a victim. He saw himself surrounded by darkness, consumed by the very evil he was fighting. He saw his own death, painted in excruciating detail, a brutal and inevitable end. He tried to ignore it, to dismiss it as just another vision, another potential future that he could change. But the fear was relentless, a constant companion that gnawed at his sanity. He knew, deep down, that this was different. This was his fate. He started preparing, putting his affairs in order, saying goodbye to the few friends he had left. He knew he couldn't run. He knew he couldn't hide. He had to face it, whatever it was, even if it meant sacrificing himself to save others. The final painting was unlike anything he had ever created. It was a portrait of himself, his face gaunt and haunted, his eyes filled with a chilling premonition. Behind him, a city burned, consumed by flames. And in the sky, a single, malevolent star burned brighter than all the others. He knew what it meant. He knew what he had to do. He left his studio, the painting propped up against the easel, a final warning to a world that wouldn't listen. He walked into the night, towards the burning city, towards his own inevitable doom. He didn't know what awaited him, but he knew he couldn't turn back. He was an artist, a prophet, a savior, and he was about to become a sacrifice. As the flames engulfed him, he saw the star in the sky, burning brighter than ever. He closed his eyes, accepting his fate, knowing that his sacrifice would save the city, would push back the darkness, would give others a chance to live. His final thought, as the flames consumed him, was a single word, whispered into the void: paint.